Baby mama drama is not a new thing in celebrities' lives. In fact, it seems like it has become a trend, or rather a competition among celebrities. Baby mama dramas aren't really front-page news material anymore, but for some reason, we can't stop talking about Sharina Hudson. If you're a fan of Wendy Williams, the name Sharina Hudson would surely ring a bell because, after all, she is the reason why Wendy Williams' marriage of 22 years went down the drain. But it looks like Sharina is realizing that Kevin Hunter might not be all that. She's finally decided to come out and sue Kevin for child support for their 2-year-old daughter Journey, but that should not necessarily be an issue, except for one tiny problem. Kevin Hunter is broke. But how did Kevin Hunter become broke? Why did Sharina decide to sue for child support? And should she have shown more empathy? Well, let's get into the video. Karma has finally caught up with Kevin Hunter Sr. because his baby mama, Sharina Hudson, has not only dumped him, but is also deciding to drag him to court. According to the reports, she's in talks to ask for child support for their daughter Journey, and it looks like she's determined to ruin Kevin. It also seems like she's accusing Kevin of being a deadbeat dad. Karma seems to have not only caught up with Kevin, but she's also working overtime because he's going through it. In less than a year, he's gone from living a lavish lifestyle on Wendy's coins to going broke, getting sick and being unable to get treatment, getting sued by banks, and getting dumped by Sharina, who is allegedly asking him for child support. But the thing is, people aren't exactly surprised about this because we could all see it coming. We only knew that it was a matter of time because Kevin has been swearing for years that Sharina loves him for him, and she was never about his money. But people didn't believe that because he was spending a lot of money on her, or rather, a lot of Wendy's money on her. Now that Kevin and Sharina have been involved since 2007, when they first started sneaking around behind Wendy's back, he spent millions of dollars on her since the affair started. He's literally spent more than $700,000 on a home for her.
And I read about it in the blogs and the tabloids, the address of this place that he had purchased to share with this backwoods bitch, 9 miles from my house in Livingston. And they're living the high life.
The fact that Kevin used Wendy's money to buy a house for his mistress that was very close to the one he lived in with Wendy was just a very nasty thing to do. I mean, imagine the disrespect and embarrassment Wendy must have felt anytime she left her house and drove by the house her husband bought for another woman with her money. But a $700,000 house wasn't the only major investment that Kevin put down on Sharina because he was the perfect sugar daddy and helped her set up several businesses. But it was no surprise that they all failed. He opened a big store for her in her native town of South Carolina, but that business just ended up in the trash after a couple of months. He invested in another clothing and jewelry store called Vish, and that one also failed. But Kevin still didn't give up because he went ahead to help her get certified as a realtor. But that also didn't work out. Of course, all this came from Wendy's money. Wendy knew about the affair, and she was kind of okay with it. But she had one major rule, and that was Kevin wasn't allowed to get Sharina pregnant. Well, we know how that ended up. Sharina got pregnant, and Wendy immediately dumped Kevin. Not only did she file for divorce, but she also got him fired from his job on the Wendy's show.
You know, I don't recommend that you work with your husband because I made him my manager, and then when I decided to divorce him, he had to be fired. In other words, I made him divorced and unemployed all in one day.
Talk about being petty and smart. But even though he was unemployed, he didn't put any effort into looking for another job because for a man who was unemployed and had a semi-unemployed baby mama with a baby on the way, you would imagine that he would begin to look for a job immediately. But he didn't do that because he found a way for Wendy to pay alimony. He and his new family continued to live a lavish lifestyle. We really don't know how much the alimony was, but it must have been a sizable amount because Kevin and Sharina were living very comfortably and neither one of them really worked. Which was weird, as Kevin always bragged about how he made Wendy's career. Anyway, they were all doing well until the alimony payment stopped. Now, what Kevin didn't understand is that Wendy's lawyer had included a clause in the alimony agreement that she would no longer pay him alimony if she lost her job on the Wendy show. The clause said, if for any reason plaintiff's contract with Talk WW is not renewed and/or is otherwise suspended, canceled, or terminated, and plaintiff does not have any other television show being aired and paying her an equivalent salary, defendant understands and agrees that all severance payment shall be subject to termination or modification. But for some reason, both Kevin, Sharina, and their lawyers either missed this clause or maybe they just didn't care because they thought that Wendy would never leave the show since she was already making millions and things were perfect for her on the show. But we all know that Wendy got really sick, and the Wendy show was canceled because of her prolonged absence from the show. As per the contract, Wendy immediately stopped paying Kevin alimony. In addition to that, she was having a lot of personal problems at the time, including having her assets frozen by her bank. But it seemed like all these things didn't matter to Kevin because for some reason over the years, he didn't properly invest his money. So there was no alimony from Wendy and no money at all for Kevin. In one word, Kevin was broke. He went on a rant against Wendy and her lawyers and her financial advisor, saying, "Wendy was in rehab and these people just stopped depositing my money cold turkey. Now I'm demanding to see the bank's records from the time of the divorce until now, and that will show what really is going on. My financial expert witnesses say they have never seen a financial institution fight this hard to keep from disclosing the records. These people have tried to starve me out. They've offered pennies on the dollar. I'm not gonna let them get away with my money or Kevin Jr.'s. At the end of the day, I earned that money, and I'm not letting them take it from either one of us. They're going to have to show me those bank statements." His rant did nothing, of course, to improve the situation, so he finally resorted to making a public plea, revealing that things were very bad for him and Sharina financially, and they were unable to pay their bills. He said, "I've fallen behind on most of my bills. I currently live in a community that requires payment to the Homeowners Association, and I am behind on that bill. My life has been greatly affected since Wendy stopped making payments under our settlement agreement. The fact that I'm unable to sustain my life and pay my bills in order is extremely urgent to me. I cannot pay my bills and sustain my day-to-day living." It was around this time that rumors started to go around that Kevin and Sharina were having some issues in their relationship. Sources closer to them revealed that the couple had gone flat broke, and Sharina wasn't used to the broke lifestyle. Insiders claimed that Sharina was causing a lot of trouble at home for Kevin, and he no longer felt comfortable at home because of all the pressure. This is probably what made Kevin desperate enough to sue Wendy for continued alimony payments. But the lawsuit was thrown out for obvious reasons, and our boy Kevin was back to square one. And maybe it was worse than square one, because Sharina finally dumped him. After all, he was unable to provide for her, and she was not going to stay with a broke man. And I'm sure that during that period, Wendy was having a ball because her cheating ex-husband had been dumped by his mistress. After all, he could no longer spend money that he didn't even have in the first place. Sharina left Kevin, moved in with her mother, but if you think that is bad enough, sources close to them are saying Sharina is now demanding Kevin pay child support for the 2-year-old daughter Journey. Now, this is a very messy situation because Kevin doesn't have a way out because he has to pay child support whether he has the money or not. Another insider added that Sharina has been the only one responsible for their daughter's upkeep since Wendy stopped paying, and she's sick and tired of Kevin dodging his responsibility towards their daughter. But people have zero pity for their situation. I mean, Kevin could go out there and look for a job like an adult, but instead, he sits down waiting for Wendy to pay him alimony for money that he didn't help work for. And Sharina too has a kid for a man who treated his ex like trash. What exactly was she thinking? Did she think he was going to be responsible? But I do want to know what you guys think about this. Do you think she was right to come after Kevin the way she did, or do you think she needs to show more sympathy? So tell me, leave your comments below.